Avicenna was a Persian polymath who is regarded as one of the most significant thinkers and writers of the Islamic Golden Age. Of the 450 works he is known to have written, around 240 have survived, including 150 on philosophy and 40 on medicine. His most famous works are the Book of Healing, a philosophical and scientific encyclopedia, and the Canon of Medicine, a medical encyclopedia which became a standard medical text at many medieval universities and remained in use as late as 1650. In 1973, Avicenna's Canon of Medicine was reprinted in New York. Besides philosophy and medicine, Avicenna's corpus includes writings on astronomy, alchemy, geography and geology, psychology, Islamic theology, logic, mathematics, physics and poetry. Circumstances. Ibn-Sīnā created an extensive corpus of works during what is commonly known as the Islamic Golden Age, in which the translations of Greco-Roman, Persian, and Indian texts were studied extensively. Greco-Roman texts translated by the Kindai school were commented, redacted and developed substantially by Islamic intellectuals, who also built upon Persian and Indian mathematical systems, astronomy, algebra, trigonometry and medicine. The Samanid dynasty in the eastern part of Persia, Greater Khorasan and Central Asia, as well as the Buyid dynasty in the western part of Persia and Iraq, provided a thriving atmosphere for scholarly and cultural development. Under the Samanids, Bukhara rivaled Baghdad as a cultural capital of the Islamic world. The study of the Quran and the Hadith thrived in such a scholarly atmosphere. Philosophy, fiqh and theology were further developed, most noticeably by Avicenna and his opponents. Al-Razi and Al-Farabi had provided methodology and knowledge in medicine and philosophy. Avicenna had access to the great libraries of Balkh, Khwarezm, Gorgan, Ray, Isfahan and Hamadan. Various texts show that he debated philosophical points with the greatest scholars of the time. Aruzi Samarkandi describes how before Avicenna left Khwarezm he had met al-Biruni, Abu Nasr Iraqi, Abbas al-Masihi and Abu al-Khairkama. Biography. Early life. Avicenna was born c. 980 in Afsana, a village near Bukhara, the capital of the Samanids, a Persian dynasty in Central Asia and Greater Khorasan. His mother, named Setarate, was from Bukhara. His father, Abdullah, was a respected Ismaili scholar from Balkh, an important town of the Samanid Empire, in what is today Balkh province, Afghanistan. His father worked at the government of Samanid in the village Karmasain. After 5 years, his younger brother, Mahmud, was born. Avicenna first began to learn the Quran and literature in such a way that when he was 10 years old he had essentially learned all of them. A number of theories have been proposed regarding Avicenna's madhab. Medieval historian Ahir al-Din al-Bayhaqi considered Avicenna to be a follower of the Brethren of Purity. On the other hand, Dmitry Gutis along with Aisha Khan and Jules J. Janssens demonstrated that Avicenna was a Sunni Hanafi. However, Shia Faqih Nurullah Shushtari and Sayyid Hossein Nasr, in addition to Henry Corbin, have maintained that he was most likely a Twelver Shia. Also Sharif Khorasani, according to rejecting invitation of Sunni governor Sultan Mahmud Ghaznavi by Avicenna, believes that Avicenna was a Shiite. Besides that, his family were Ismaili Shiite. Similar disagreements exist on the background of Avicenna's family, whereas some writers considered him Sunni. Some more recent writers thought they were Shia. According to his autobiography, Avicenna had memorized the entire Quran by the age of 10. He learned Indian arithmetic from an Indian greengrocer, Mahmud Masai, and he began to learn more from a wandering scholar who gained a livelihood by curing the sick and teaching the young. He also studied fiqh under the Sunni Hanafi scholar Ismail al-Zahid. Avicenna taught some extent of philosophy books such as Introduction, Porphyry, Euclid's Elements, Ptolemy's Almagest by an unpopular philosopher, Abu Abdullah Natli, who claimed philosophizing. As a teenager, he was greatly troubled by the metaphysics of Aristotle, which he could not understand until he read al-Farabi's commentary on the work. For the next year and a half, he studied philosophy, in which he encountered greater obstacles. In such moments of baffled inquiry, he would leave his books, perform the requisite ablutions, then go to the mosque, and continue in prayer till light broke on his difficulties. Deep into the night, he would continue his studies, and even in his dreams problems would pursue him and work out their solution. 40 times, it is said, he read through the metaphysics of Aristotle, till the words were imprinted on his memory, but their meaning was hopelessly obscure, until one day they found illumination from the little commentary by Farabi, which he bought at a bookstall for the small sum of 3 dirhams. So great was his joy at the discovery, made with the help of a work from which he had expected only mystery, that he hastened to return thanks to God, and bestowed alms upon the poor. He turned to medicine at 16, and not only learned medical theory, but also by gratuitous attendance of the sick had, according to his own account, discovered new methods of treatment. The teenager achieved full status as a qualified physician at age 18, and found that medicine is no hard and thorny science, like mathematics and metaphysics. So I soon made great progress. I became an excellent doctor and began to treat patients using approved remedies. The youthful physician's fame spread quickly, and he treated many patients without asking for payment. Adulthood. Ibn-Sīnā's first appointment was that of physician to the Emir, Nuh, who owed him his recovery from a dangerous illness. Ibn-Sīnā's chief reward for this service was access to the royal library of the Samanids, well-known patrons of scholarship and scholars. When the library was destroyed by fire not long after, the enemies of Ibn-Sīnā accused him of burning it, in order forever to conceal the sources of his knowledge. Meanwhile, he assisted his father in his financial labors, but still found time to write some of his earliest works. When Ibn-Sīnā was 22 years old, he lost his father. The Samanid dynasty came to its end in December 1004. Ibn-Sīnā seems to have declined the offers of Mahmud of Ghazni, and proceeded westwards to Urgench in modern Turkmenistan, where the vizier, regarded as a friend of scholars, gave him a small monthly stipend. The pay was small, however, so Ibn-Sīnā wandered from place to place through the districts of Nishapur and Merv to the borders of Khorasan, seeking an opening for his talents. Qaboos, the generous ruler of Tabaristan, himself a poet and a scholar, with whom Ibn-Sīnā had expected to find asylum, was on about that date starved to death by his troops who had revolted. Ibn-Sīnā himself was at this time stricken by a severe illness. Finally, at Gorgan, near the Caspian Sea, Ibn-Sīnā met with a friend, who bought a dwelling near his own house in which Ibn-Sīnā lectured on logic and astronomy. Several of Ibn-Sīnā's treatises were written for this patron, and the commencement of his canon of medicine also dates from his stay in Hyrcania. Ibn-Sīnā subsequently settled at Ray, in the vicinity of modern Tehran, the hometown of razors, where Majd ad-Dawla, a son of the last Buwayhid emir, was nominal ruler under the regency of his mother. About 30 of Ibn-Sīnā's shorter works are said to have been composed in Ray. Constant feuds which raged between the regent and her second son, Shams al-Dawla, however, compelled the scholar to quit the place. After a brief sojourn at Qazvin, he passed southwards to Hamadan, where Shams al-Dawla, another Buwayhid emir, had established himself. At first, Ibn-Sīnā entered into the service of a high-born lady, but the emir, hearing of his arrival, called him in as medical attendant. and sent him back with presents to his dwelling. Ibn-Sīnā was even raised to the office of vizier. The emir decreed that he should be banished from the country. Ibn-Sīnā, however, remained hidden for 40 days in Sheikh Ahmed Fadl's house, until a fresh attack of illness induced the emir to restore him to his post. Even during this perturbed time, Ibn-Sīnā persevered with his studies and teaching. Every evening, extracts from his great works, the Canon and the Sanasha, were dictated and explained to his pupils. On the death of the emir, Ibn-Sīnā ceased to be vizier and hid himself in the house of an apothecary, where, with intense assiduity, he continued the composition of his works. Meanwhile, he had written to Abu Yafar, the prefect of the dynamic city of Isfahan, offering his services. The new emir of Hamadan, hearing of this correspondence and discovering where Ibn-Sīnā was hiding, incarcerated him in a fortress. War meanwhile continued between the rulers of Isfahan and Hamadan. In 1024 the former captured Hamadan and its towns, expelling the Tajik mercenaries. When the storm had passed, Ibn-Sīnā returned with the emir to Hamadan, and carried on his literary labors. Later, however, accompanied by his brother, a favorite pupil, and 2 slaves, Ibn-Sīnā escaped from the city in the dress of a Sufi ascetic. After a perilous journey, they reached Isfahan, receiving an honorable welcome from the prince. Later life and death. The remaining 10 or 12 years of Ibn-Sīnā's life were spent in the service of the Kakuyid ruler Muhammad ibn Rustam, Dushman Ziyar, whom he accompanied as physician and general literary and scientific advisor, even in his numerous campaigns. During these years he began to study literary matters and philology, instigated, it is asserted, by criticisms on his style. A severe colic, which seized him on the march of the army against Hamadan, was checked by remedies so violent that Ibn-Sīnā could scarcely stand. On a similar occasion the disease returned. With difficulty he reached Hamadan, where, finding the disease gaining ground, he refused to keep up the regimen imposed, and resigned himself to his fate. His friends advised him to slow down and take life moderately. He refused, however, stating that, "I prefer a short life with width to a narrow one with length." On his deathbed remorse seized him. He bestowed his goods on the poor, restored unjust gains, freed his slaves, and read through the Quran every 3 days until his death. He died in June 1037, in his 58th year, in the month of Ramadan, and was buried in Hamadan, Iran.